On April 16, 2018, President of Nicaragua, Daniel Ortega, announced that the government was raising payroll taxes and cutting retirement benefits to reduce expenses. A couple days later, protests by Nicaraguan citizens erupted in response. Under pressure, Ortega withdrew the plans. However, the protests evolved into broader demands for the resignation of his presidency. Daniel Ortega has been president since 2007. During his presidency, he has made his wife, Rosario Murillo, the vice president. Together, they control almost every aspect of the government. Ortega has abolished presidential term limits and has been accused of rigging the presidential elections. The protests that started in April were much more than just about taxes and pension cuts. In response, Ortega used violence to harm people that spoke against the government. The UN News reported that in late August of 2018, over 300 people were reported killed and hundreds more had disappeared, while thousands were sent into exile. Over 60,000 people have fled. The large majority have attempted to flee to Costa Rica, perhaps because it is a much safer and shorter trip than migrating to the United States. The same news report noted that protesters had to flee to the mountains when they heard that masked men were coming to look for them. Not only did these people have to fear the masked men, but they also had to face the problem of leaving their home within the country due to safety concerns. Like we have discussed in class, this is challenging because internally displaced people are not recognized as refugees, and in this case, there is no aid coming from the government. The media sources I analyzed covered how migrants were received in both a positive and negative light. In August of 2018, about 500 Costa Ricans marched in a city park in San Jose, the capital of Costa Rica. They chanted, "Nicaraguans out," and physically threatened some refugees. As I read a BBC article, it was almost parallel to the reception of recent migrants in the U.S. In one case, a Costa Rican woman stated that Nicaraguans only arrived to commit crimes. In response, one of the migrants stated that the vast majority are just looking for a safe haven. Furthermore, many migrants expressed their desire to return home in the same way we have discussed the continual pattern of refugees longing for their native country. On the other hand, there were Costa Ricans who openly welcomed migrants. An example is how Carlos Sandoval, an immigration researcher, helped organize counter-demonstrations welcoming Nicaraguans. Additionally, in April of 2019, the Costa Rican government was actively working on laws to protect refugees combating hate speech. When comparing the Nicaraguan government to the Costa Rican government officials seemed to be very supportive of Nicaraguans, whereas the Nicaraguan government was hostile towards its own people. In the media sources I came across, the Nicaraguans were consistently viewed as victims of Ortega's oppression, as he sought to further concentrate his power. The sources that I came across included various pictures, and many of them included the national police. They were generally presented outnumbering the Nicaraguan citizens, who were depicted in vulnerable positions. Additionally, many sources included college-aged students, perhaps because, historically, they have mobilized against repressive regimes in Latin America. I also came across political cartoons which emphasize how no one is holding Ortega accountable for his actions, which ultimately caused more people to flee. In this cartoon, both are sitting at their desk with their titles for others to see, which place them in a position of power, privilege, and authority. However, in Trump's instance, it is as if he is upset by the fact that he cannot place children in cages any longer, as denoted by the exclamation points and the facial expression of concern. Meanwhile, Ortega's facial expression shows more of a person intrigued by the fact that he has so much power and freedom without any consequences or punishment. An issue that this political cartoon may bring attention to is that unless you are a political leader of a country with great power like the United States, you may not be held accountable for actions no matter how horrifying they may be. In present time, thankfully the violence has decreased. However, it remains to be seen when Ortega will step down from power and how Nicaraguan refugees will recover.